Are you ready for another video about the WAWA Runs and Fantasy Football League? I know I am. Week 2, here we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Week 1's wrap-up of the WAWA Runs and Fantasy Football League. And we'll also have the Week 2 preview right here on YouTube and our Fantasy Football page, and probably Facebook too, because it'll probably get uploaded to that. So the Week 1 wrap-up show, and the big story out of Week 1 was the two humongous upsets. A 57-point line overcome by Mr. Rosencrantz, winning it 213.5 to 202.5 over Team Baldwin. He was a 57-point underdog, and he got the win. Like I said, he rode his wide receivers, but the other big storyline was Mr. Baldwin, Big Balls, unfortunately lost one of his starting running backs in Fred Jackson. That might have led to his loss too, as Fred Jackson could only put up 3 points before the knee injury. The other big upset, as I was saying, a 22.5-point line overcome by Little Bearded Men, 204 to 179 to beat Gina Source in her debut in the league. Team Biscuit, 204-179. Aaron Rodgers with 44 points. Outduels Drew Brees with 38, and Rob comes out with the win. Now to some of the other matchups that were a little less exciting with the upsets. Tim Falcone, who was a 1-point underdog, so a slight underdog, but not really underdog at all when it comes to fantasy, wins it 204.5 to 190 over Dozer and ESPN DTMC. Peyton Manning had a good day for Dozer, but Matt Forte was the leading scorer in the matchup, giving Tim the win. And Tim goes to 1-0. Dozer falls to 0-1. Now we move on to ESPN Who Cares and the Nicktoons. The two younger brothers had the two lowest total scores in the league this week, and Zach had the highest of those lowest scores, 171 to 168.5. What wound up being the closest matchup out of everybody. Zach carried Ray Rice to a win. Ray Rice putting up 36.5 points. Andre Johnson for Jake actually put up 43.5, but the rest of his team apparently did not show up, as he goes to 0-1. Zach to 1-0. And then in what was billed as the game of the week, came down to Monday night. I was down 8 heading into Monday night. Needed Antonio Gates to put up 9 more points than Run DMC Darren McFadden. That obviously did not happen, as I fall to Paul, who put up 225, the most points this week. He beat me 225 to 185. I actually had a strong week for my running backs and had more points from running backs than anybody else in the league, but still go down by 30, as Paul gets the most points and the biggest win of the week. So we'll get to the trophies now. Who got the trophies for week 1? Like we said, Paul put up the most points, so he gets that trophy. Then Paul also had the biggest win, so he gets that trophy as well. So we will see. And so Paul gets the WAWA Super WAWA win, which is the biggest win, and the most points award also. Then Team Rosencrantz, like I said, he carried Julio Jones and Pierre Garçon to the big upset Ice-T half-gallon of receptions award. He gets that one. The Little Bearded Man had the number 1 starting quarterback in our league. Aaron Rodgers put up 44 points. The actual number 1 starting quarterback in fantasy this week was Atlanta's Matt Ryan, but he was not started, as Mr. Rosencrantz chose Tom Brady, but it didn't matter either way. He still got the win. So Rob gets the title for the Hoagie Fest Air Attack Award. And the ESPN DTMC, that's Dozer's team, he gets the Pretzel Perfect, little alliteration, too much there, Defense and Special Teams Award, as his kicker and special teams got the most points this week, mostly because of David Akers and his record-tying field goal. ESPN, DTMC, and Dozer get the Pretzel Perfect Defense Special Teams, so a trophy but a loss for Dozer. The Nicktoons, Team Biscuit, and Falcon Fury were left out of the trophies this week, but 2 out of 3 of those got wins, and quite frankly, that's all that matters. I got 1 good and 1 negative trophy. I got a good trophy for the WAWA Run. Like I said, I had the most points from the 2 combined starting running backs this week in the league. But I also had the R1 Epic Fail Award as the biggest margin of loss, 30 points to Paul. So 1 good, 1 bad trophy for me. Then 2 people that just got bad trophies were the 2 Baldwin brothers. Big Balls get the You Sat Who Award, as he sat CJ Spiller, who unexpectedly came off and was the number 1 fantasy scorer in the league this week. But no one saw that coming, because Fred Jackson was supposed to start and play pretty much the whole game, but got hurt, and then CJ Spiller came in and had a phenomenal game for Buffalo in a big loss to the Jets. And the ESPN or Yahoo, who cares? Baby Baldwin just gets the just can't score award. It's unfortunately he had the lowest point total in the league this week, and he gets that trophy. So that's all the trophies and the wrap up from week 1. So we'll move on. It's week 2 time. It starts tonight. Bears and the Green Bay Packers live on NFL Network Thursday night. So we will see what's happening in the WAWA Runs Fantasy Football League in week 2. We'll start 4 divisional matchups again and 1 interdivisional matchup. We'll start with the divisional matchups. Falcone Fury versus Pablo Sanchez, me versus Tim. And Tim's a big favorite, 26-point favorite heading into this week. And the storyline here has to be the running backs. I had the number 1 running back duo last week in fantasy football. Tim has a strong one as well, as he now starts Adrian Peterson against Indianapolis after AD had a great week last week, and he has Matt Forte as well. So the running backs to be the main feature in that game. Tim, again, a 26-point favorite. And then another divisional matchup in our division, in the WAWA division. It's Little Bearded Men and Rob Yates versus Gangnam Style and Paul Barnett. The Little Bearded Men are 17.5-point favorite against last week's high-scoring team. This one, I think, will come down to the quarterbacks. Tony Romo, see if he can continue what he did last week, and also if Chris Johnson can step up for Paul after having a terrible week last week. And then Aaron Rodgers, can he continue his number 1 quarterback status in our league for Rob and can keep him with that 17.5-point line to the win. And the Nicktoons versus Team Baldwin. Zach faced one Baldwin last week. He gets the bigger brother this week. And Zach is a 44.5-point underdog against Team Baldwin. But like I said, lines apparently mean nothing as Mr. Rosencrantz overcame a humongous line last week. The thing about Nick, he has 2 running backs that are on the probable list, so they probably will play, but they might be a little beat up and not sure how they're going to do. Can Des Bryant hold up his end of the bargain again for Team Baldwin, and can Zach get more points? Because he had a tough week last week. Can Ray Rice and Cedric Benson, bounce back because he's playing right now? He had a miserable week 1. Can he step up for Zach's team? And the final matchup, actually no, we have 2 more matchups. ESPN or Who Cares and Team Biscuit, 2 0-1 teams. The only 2 0-1 teams going out at each other, so someone is guaranteed to get their first win of the week, first win of the season this week between these 2. 6.5-point line, so a close line between Team Biscuit and ESPN or Yahoo Who Cares. Gina is the favorite there, and the story of this matchup is injuries. On Jake Baldwin's side, Fred Jackson, obviously out for 3 or 4 weeks. He needs to find a running back to replace him. Calvin Johnson's questionable against San Francisco. Is the Madden curse already catching up to Calvin Johnson? Who knows? And then on Team Biscuit's side, Jonathan Stewart's probable, so he probably will play, but that running game for Carolina wasn't there very much, so how much will it be when he's hurt? And Steve Smith, her top wide receiver from last week, is questionable, so the story of that game, to see who gets their first win of the year, is injuries. And now to the game of the week. Team Rosencrantz and ESPN DTMC, a 0.5 half-point line. So it is the game of the week declared by me. Who will win? The biggest question marks. It's Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. Something we've seen a lot in their careers now in our fantasy football league. Dozer has Peyton Manning. Team Rosencrantz, Tom Brady. Who will come out on top? Brady or Manning? They played a lot in their careers. Now they'll play in our fantasy football league. So that is the preview for week 2. I am excited about it. I hope you are too. Will Paul's hot start continue as he had a lot of points in week 1? And who will get their first win out of Jake Baldwin and Gina Source? Can either of the division champions from last year, me or Jake Baldwin, bounce back in week 2 as we both lost in week 1? So we will see you next week with a week 2 wrap-up, week 3 showdown preview show next Wednesday live on YouTube.